Welcome back to Bustérs, the new era Bustérs Entertainment. Ross Dog is the type of guy who's funny for a little while and then goes too far. You'll be on the same page, but then he'll say, hey, let's make this girl cry and want to kill herself. And you're like, dude, I thought this was just shits and giggles, not harassment with murderous intent. Insulting people, insulting someone for playing the Nintendo Switch is like insulting someone for eating ice cream or smoking weed. What a loser you are for enjoying pleasurable things on the planet. At least that's the way I look at it. I don't know if I like the title Kill Tony. I don't know if it's ironic or not, because I've definitely had many moments watching his show where I thought, boy, would I really like to kill Tony. And if I did, would it even be a crime? Because Tony's, he's got it right there in the title. If I killed him, it would at most be assisted suicide. People say sometimes, I can't even watch HB anymore. He's a disheveled mess these days. If you were ever watching my show because of my looks, then you have a problem. I'm not a GQ model. In fact, I go to the suit store and they say, what's the point of dressing up? It's not going to help your situation. People always say it's homophobic to point and laugh at a person for being an anti-gay homosexual, but you got it all wrong. I'm not laughing at the gayness, I'm laughing at the hypocrisy. And Norm Macdonald always said that the hypocrisy is the worst part. I told a guy I was tired of seeing his dog shit on my lawn. He said, what's the problem? Do you hate dogs? I said, look, I love my grandmom, but if she shit on my front lawn and left it there, we would have a problem. This guy Ian Ellis, he doesn't like me. And I don't know why, because just because I'm an asshole every time I interact with him, he has the gall to not like me. It doesn't make any sense. Whenever someone asks me if I'm a drug addict, I say, do I look like a drug addict? Because 9 out of 10 times the other person will say, yes, you do. My family is so anti-gun. When I played GoldenEye when I was a kid, I was only allowed to do hand-to-hand combat. The movie The Incredibles got a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. Thank God, because you don't want to make a movie called The Incredibles and get a 36% rating. That would be embarrassing. I've never bought a cooler. I'm waiting for the coolest. People always say, act like a man, act like a lady, act like an adult. But how come nobody looks at a dog that's acting abnormal and says, act like a dog, damn it? One time a 60-year-old lady wearing a sweater called me cool, and I said, well, of course I'm cool, compared to you. This guy Giuliani was accused of sexually assaulting an ex-staffer. Oh, so an Italian guy in a position of power? I'd be more surprised if the story was that he was a good person. That's a little light racism for you. We love racial people, but, it's like smoking cigarettes. You got to do something that's bad once in a while. Joe Rogan is the type of guy who kills elk and drives sports cars and lifts weights just to prove to himself that he's not gay. Unfortunately, it doesn't work, because then he talks about dicks for 10 hours a week. So there's chocolate chips, and I get that the chips in the cookies are chocolate, but what flavor is the other part, and why does nobody question this? People are right that money doesn't grow on trees. It actually grows in a garden on a cotton plant. I like to argue politics with people, but I just like to make things up. I say, Watch out for this guy Bernie Sanders. He wants sexualized medicine. If he becomes president, every pill is going to be a suppository. I Googled, do people get paid at Just for Laughs Festival? And Google showed a list of questions. And the first question was, how much do professional fluffers get paid? Google has a creepier mind than me. I was just asking about comedy. They want to talk about people who get men hard for a living. You know, they say that life imitates art. Well, that's not always the case, because I've painted over 1,000 pictures of me having sex with Oprah, but she doesn't even give me the time of day. When people say they don't like their wife, they say that she's their ball and chain. When they love their wife, they say she's their anchor. I don't get it. Both of those things weigh you down. People say to me, you should wear a pink shirt and rebel against traditional masculinity. Well, then I would just be listening to you and what you're telling me. That wouldn't be rebellious either. You know, my friend said he's really into women who shoot guns and race cars, which is an interesting way of telling me that he's into dudes. Let me pull this down a little bit. I love women who insult me. I guess you could call me a nagger lover. Now, a lot of people are going to be offended by that joke because they think it's racist, but it's not racist. It's almost racist, which means you should almost be offended. You know, I call myself a nerd douche. If you could combine the nerdiness of a dork and the douchiness of a frat guy, you would get me. I'm the type of guy who will, call somebody a dork for watching anime while holding Nintendo Joy-Cons. I asked my dad if a guy looked like he was on cocaine, and he said he'd never seen anyone on cocaine. I said, if you've watched any stand-up comic in the 1970s, you've definitely seen someone on cocaine. The only good part of being really fat is that I can say that I'm bigger than Bert Kreischer and not be lying. I feel like I have reverse body dysmorphia, where I walk around all fat thinking that I'm this thin, handsome guy. You know, people say you shouldn't assume anything about a person based on their race, but you should assume some things. For example, I would assume that a black person has darker skin than me. You know, they say that you can't control how someone feels. Then how is the influencer industry worth $7.36 billion? How come right-wingers hate dating the same gender, but can't get enough of dating the same race? You're white and you only date white people? You might be a heterosexual, but you're definitely homoracial. A guy told me a joke, and I didn't laugh, and he said, "Don't you have a sense of humor?" I said, "Hell yeah, that's why I didn't laugh. Because you told a joke, and I sensed that there was no humor." I have a friend who's always saying, "I'm smarter than my dad." And I was thinking, what a weird thing to be concerned about, to need to be smarter than your parents. You know, that's the one thing that I know is not true, because my dad couldn't help but tell me how dumb I was. I think they should make a law that you can't wear a seatbelt, so that everyone with a rebellious streak will say, "Fuck the government, I'm wearing a seatbelt." I don't think all gay people are necessarily creepy toward children. In fact, most are not. But they do have the worst PR in the world with their kitty rainbow color scheme. You know, people are making a big deal that Hunter Biden's laptop photos were exposed, including photos of him doing drugs with women. Am I supposed to be offended that he's a cool guy having fun? My friend said, "You're really bitter. You should practice more gratitude." I said, "Well, I'm grateful that I'm not short like you." He said, "That's not the type of gratitude I'm talking about." My friend said he was an ass man. So I sent him a picture of my ass. He said, I only like women's asses. I said, well, then you should have been more specific. You should call yourself a woman-ass man. You know, a lot of people say that video gamers have no luck with women. Not true. You know, there's this one woman named Princess Peach, and she can't get enough of me. You know, the greatest joke I've ever told is that I'm a professional comedian, since I've made almost no money from it. I don't hate women. I just hate bullshit, and women do a lot of bullshit. Like, when a woman is sad, she will cry, instead of suppressing it and letting it turn into anger and punching a hole in the wall. Isn't that some bullshit? Just being honest. You know, these anonymous meetings are great, unless you're adhered to concealing your identity. Unless you're addicted to concealing your identity, then it's a total scam. You know, my friend has commitment issues. Like the other day, he tried to suicide himself, but he couldn't commit. Here's a $1 billion idea. It's called MTV Houses, where rich babies give you a tour of their crib. You know, I wish all women were lesbians. Then it wouldn't have hurt as much when they all turned me down back in the day. Here's a $1 billion idea. A blues ball. It's like a disco ball, but for blues music. It's really rusty and depressing, just like blues music. I like to call Red Bar Radio the annoying wife simulator, because anytime Mike is on a roll and doing something groundbreaking, she'll just cut in with some bullshit like, oh, isn't that interesting? That guy got that shirt and it's like really expensive. And he's like, shut up, whore. You know, it's surprising that there's so much homophobia in the military, considering the fact that their job is to be dominated and given orders by other men. You know, a cashier at the grocery store was complaining about people kneeling during the anthem at football games and said, politics have no place in sports. Well, maybe they don't, but they sure as hell have no place in the checkout line at the grocery store. You know, clouds get a lot of bad press. You know, people say, oh, great, a cloudy day. When you're confused, your judgment is clouded. Whereas the sun gets a lot of good press, you know. If you're positive, you're a ray of sunshine. They say, let's look at the sunny side of things. But all I'm saying is nobody ever got skin cancer because they were exposed to too much cloud. My friend who's a gardener says I use too much flowery language. I told him, if you're so against flowery things, why is your backyard full of tulips? Red Bar is just as bigoted as Steven Crowder, but instead of hating black people, he hates poor white people. And that's no better. You know, I guess the positive aspect of Red Bar's hatred is that he's made me aware that I have more white trash tendencies than I realized. And I had a guy from Florida tell me that smoking indoors was trashy. If people from Florida are telling you your behavior is trashy, you're definitely white trash. You know, all the people mad at Target about the Pride section, the joke's on you, because Walmart has been selling butt plugs consistently for the past 10 years, and you didn't say shit. I'm a racist, anti-racist. I'll see a bunch of Asian people being annoying and say, typical Asians. And then someone else will say, yeah, you're right. And I'll think, wow, they agreed with me? What a racist. Mike David would be a good cult leader because he's able to verbally abuse his wife in front of everyone's eyes, and yet he can weave enough words together to convince you that no abuse is happening at all. You know, people say they have black friends. People say that having black friends doesn't make you less racist. So are you trying to say the solution to racism is for me to have a bunch of white friends? Pink hair color used to be punk, but now that gender bending has become mainstream, it seems like the most punk thing you can do is to rock your natural hair color. You know, people say that politics have no place in sports, but think about how similar the two are. They both involve teams, often represented by animals. They have diehard fan bases and are discussed on television by men wearing suits. You know, I've been embarrassed about the idea of wearing a helmet while skateboarding, and my latest idea is to wear a girly pink and rainbow unicorn helmet with tassels while skating around. That way, when I start wearing a normal helmet, I won't think, this is so embarrassing, I'm wearing a helmet. I'll think, thank God I'm not wearing that girly unicorn helmet anymore. This one is much more normal. Jewish birds must have really long beaks, and they probably don't share their eggs with anyone. Do you think retarded people, when they make fun of each other, they call each other neurotypical? I know a guy who uses math to try and make his computer sound better than it is. You know, he'll say, sure, it only has 1 gigabyte of RAM, but you know, that's 1 million kilobytes. I was watching a video on cold plunges, and I was trying to find out from the comments if the science about it helping depression was legitimate. But all I kept reading was comments about how hot the woman in the video was. At a certain point, I realized that I didn't even notice the woman, and it made me think, am I gay? You know, these AI commercials are starting to make me think that I once lived in the best possible time to be alive, and that I'm about to live in the weirdest, most unpredictable time to be alive. These AI computers can now think almost as well as humans, which means that all it takes is one moron to put his robo-consciousness into a humanoid robot, and we could see the whole world being taken over. But everyone who wants to pretend, oh, it's just robots, don't be stupid, you know. I used to think that I sucked at public speaking, but then I saw Chris Christie bomb during a town hall. Now I know that I might suck, but there are levels to sucking. You know, the best part of Joe Rogan being mainstream is that he can say something political, and then Fox News will play it on one of their shows, and at the end you'll hear Theo Vaughn say some silly shit like, yeah, Joe, I agree, it's the dark arts, man. You know, I'm not saying that Joe Rogan is anywhere near the top 100 comedians of all time, but I am saying that a good chunk of the people who say that Joe Rogan isn't funny are probably less funny than he is. You know, the longer I live, the more I think that Brendan Schaub might not actually be that bad of a comedian. He's just simply so fun to make fun of because he can't take any criticism. You know, even if you were the best football player in the world, if you got pissed off every time someone said you suck, you would be made fun of a shit ton. You know, it's funny to me when Jules gets mad at Mike for being a fan of someone who's an asshole, since she married maybe one of the biggest assholes in the history of assholes. All right. So that is the monologue for the show. I don't know if I sort of sped through it. Maybe people like it that way, maybe they don't. It's not for me to decide. You know, people always say, oh, did you do a good job? Well, my job is to let the audience decide. I have $1 billion ideas. You know, one of the ideas is cups for water that change color when toxins like forever chemicals are detected. Also yarmulkes for Lego people, because why should all Lego people be Christian? Also want to do a 24-hour news channel hosted by toddlers, because even if the world is on the brink of war, it's not as depressing if little kids are telling you. I also want to create rainbow clothing for straight people, because who says you have to be gay to taste the rainbow? Also, you know, purses for alpha males, because regular purses are girly, But these purses would look like toolboxes with chain straps and barbed wire. It's impossible to look like a chick when you're carrying one of those around. You know, also want to do a mandatory race transition for 1 year when you turn 18. If every white person has to be black for 1 year of their life, maybe they would start to be a little more empathetic for the toward the black experience. How about a make me laugh challenge for people pulled over by a cop? If you can make the cop laugh, you don't get a ticket. Also want to do a strip roast battle, which is 2 people versus each other in multiple rounds of roasting each other. You know, each round that you lose, you have to take an item off of clothing off. The game goes until one of the contenders is totally naked. Meatball machines. They're like gumball machines, but for Italian people. And we love Italian people here, you know. They make the best food. Activity warning for smartwatches. You know, you've heard of sedentary warnings that reminds you to move around when you've been sitting in a place too long. This is the opposite. It reminds you to be lazy when you've been moving around too much. Suicide roller coasters. These are roller coasters that are the most dangerous ride ever. The only ride where you're guaranteed to die. And they would only be available in countries where assisted suicide is legal. Also want to present no humor ice cream bars. Instead of sticks with jokes in them, they come with depressing poems written on them. And those are the $1 billion ideas of the week, of this episode anyway. You know, sometimes it's weekly, sometimes it's not. I never know. We also have the HB dictionary. You know, one of the new terms I'm putting out there is claustrophobic. That's when a Jewish person is uncomfortably close to a German person indoors. Also, sex talkers. These are people who will make anything, even a conversation about oatmeal, into a conversation about sex. A sober hero. That is someone who thinks they're better than you because they're sober and you're not. A cockknocker. That's someone who dabbles in being gay but isn't committed to the identity. For example, you could say, Joe isn't full-on gay. He's a cockknocker. He sucks one dick every 5 years. A skate hoarder. That's someone who doesn't actually skate but owns 5 skateboards and has a closet full of skate clothing. Americancer. That's when someone makes their whole personality about being American, wearing American flags, American flag suits, ties, hats, etc. A conspiracy worrier. That's someone who is always worried about things that are not actually going to happen. Shoe drunk. That's when someone is so intoxicated. Someone is so intoxicated by their new shoe purchase that they can barely speak. Guitards. That's people who have the nicest guitar in the world, but don't know the first thing about playing it. Ukelelos. Those are people who can play the ukulele, but are embarrassed to admit it. Gym posters. These are people who go to the gym but barely work out at all. Gym mice. These are gym rats who do all their working out at home. And that is the HB Dictionary segment for the week. Also doing another segment, the HB Motivation segment. We just like to get people, hyped up for the world. It's a little incongruent to the rest of the content because most of the content is silly, goofy, not sincere. But once in a while, it's worth putting some sincerity out there. Good to see you. Levi has herpes. The reason you get so many haters when you're trying to succeed is because it's much easier to tear down someone than it is to build yourself up. And once you realize that you're the best, the success of others won't bother you. And when you're number one in the world, it won't matter that it took a long time to get there. If statistics get you down, remember that statistically speaking, the likelihood of being born in the first place was almost zero. So you're already off to a good start. All you have to do to win is stop believing that you're a loser. Don't focus on your present failure. Focus on your future success. You fill a luxury car with premium gas, so fill your mind with premium thoughts. Success is what you get when you stop standing in your own way. Don't doubt yourself. That's a job that your haters can do. The only thing more rare than the belief in God is a belief in your own greatness. So if you believe in God, it's time to start believing in yourself. Brilliance is not enough. You don't want to just rest on your laurels. Greatness is when brilliance is put into action. And excellence is when greatness reaches its full potential. Achieve your dreams, then they won't be dreams anymore. They will be reality. The only thing you should quit is giving up. When someone says you won't succeed, pay attention to how many successes they've had in life. It is likely to be very few. If you're afraid of being weird, remember that exceptional achievers are often very weird. Having fear doesn't make you weak. Listening to your fear and doing what it says is what makes you weak. Succeeding isn't easy, but easy things aren't rewarding anyway. You can make your life a sob story, but nobody ever made it to the top by crying. The more people who doubt you, the more people you get to make feel stupid when you succeed. All right? So those are the motivational thoughts and ideas for this segment, for this episode. I'm working on, because when you're a comic, it's very normal to be like, oh, I suck, life sucks, the world sucks. And maybe you do, maybe you can, sure, you can acknowledge the negatives all day. But is that going to make you succeed? Hell no. We got a skate talk segment this week. Rob Dyrdek is bringing a new skate plaza to Pennsylvania. He's everything I hate about skateboarding and everything I like about skateboarding combined into one person. Lakai is putting out new Yeah Right shoes. The perfect shoes for old fat guys like me who can barely skate. The World Skate Competition is coming up soon. It's like Street League, but without Rob Dyrdek. So basically, a better Street League. Bam Margera went to rehab and is being supported by Lamar Odom. Looks like skaters and jocks agree that cocaine is a hell of a drug. There's a game out on the Nintendo Switch called The Ramp. It's a simplistic game from a faraway perspective. Somehow it manages to be the most simple but hard to play skateboarding game at the same time. I don't know if I love it or hate it yet. Hot Wheels makes their own fingerboard and skate obstacles now. Check it out. I don't even have a joke about that. Just go check it out. Unless, which I'm not saying it's like for adults, but who said that anybody is an adult for real anyway? Rollerblading is now being covered in Thrasher magazine, which proves that Gay Pride Month is having its desired effect. Really cool new game called Hell Skate is coming out. Everyone says video games are for dorks. Well, this is the only game that's so cool, you'd be a dork not to play it. Go Skateboarding Day is coming up soon. Skateboarders' favorite day of the year and police officers' least favorite day of the year. Philly has shut down the Muni skate spot. Philadelphia turning their backs on skateboarders. Who saw this coming? Brooklyn Banks has opened after being closed for a while. Brooklyn Banks are the only big banks that I'm actually a fan of. Thrasher does a DC Kalis shoe collab. Who doesn't want a collab of a dying magazine and an irrelevant skate brand? So that is the skate talk for this week. I want to also cover some fantasy rosters. People that I think could potentially be good on a stream together, on a podcast or a live stream, however it works. I was thinking first off, Ethan Klein and Tony Hinchcliffe. I just feel like they would rub each other the wrong way, and that's exactly why it would be a great stream. Red Bar and Mersh. Red Bar would be the rich snob, and Mersh would be the poor snob. So, two snobs in a pod. Gila Klein and Jules David. They're both wives of streamers, of creators, and I think that they would finally be able to come into their own. And maybe they would talk shit about their husbands. I don't know. Tim Dillon and Tim Pool, the only thing they have in common is their first name. Everything else is totally different. Joe Rogan and Howard Stern, new media and old media. I feel like they both have their own way of doing a show that might clash, or it might be the greatest thing this side of heaven. I would like the roles to be reversed, though, where Joe is actually like digging into Howard and asking him all these crazy questions. Brendan Schaub and Hans Kim, Brendan Schaub is mentally disabled, and Hans Kim might be mentally disabled. We can't tell because he is Asian, and we don't know what to expect from those folks. Steven Crowder and his ex-wife, that might be a good show because, what a fascinating combination, hearing him after he's divorced his wife. Hassan Piker and Ben Shapiro. I've heard Hassan make fun of Ben Shapiro 1,000 times, so it would be fascinating to see those two in the same room for once. Bert Kreischer and William Montgomery. They're both off the rails nutcases. So I would love to see them in the same room. I would love to see what kind of insanity could ensue with both of them. Stavros Halkias and Destiny. Stavros is really chill. Destiny is really nutty. So it could be the perfect combination. Tom Segura and Nick Mullen. They are both... Well, Nick Mullen's the funnier of the two, in my opinion, and most people's opinion, I would think. But they both have this, killer attitude of, I don't know, I just think it would work together because they both are sociopathic on some level. Bobby Lee and Jesse Lee Peterson. I just think that might be the best show in the world because Jesse would say some silly shit, and Bobby would give some kind of reaction to it that would be hilarious. Mark Maron and Todd Glass. Mark Maron's serious, Todd Glass is serious but silly. I think Todd could potentially bring the funny out of Mark. because Mark can go sometimes too depressing at times. Whitney Cummings and Kalila Kuhn, two type A personality women. It could evolve into a fist fight or a slap fight or whatever, but I would be game to watch it. Ari Shaffir and his ex Natasha Leggero, so he could argue with her and call her a fucking whore. She's great, whatever. We love whores. Whores make the world go round. Bill Burr and Anthony Cumia. Bill Burr hates Anthony Cumia, so why not put the two of them in the same room? Chris D'Elia and Jordan Peterson. They both have weird fucking... Chris D'Elia is a creep, and Jordan Peterson is also a creep in his own way with his fantasies about his grandmother. He's a reverse pedophile who thinks about sex with really, really old women. Joey Diaz and Matt Walsh. Joey Diaz is I just feel like Joey Diaz will say anything, and Matt Walsh will get offended by anything. So just hearing Joey say kind of crazy shit and then Matt being like, whoa, I can't handle this, will be very good. Adam Carolla and Doug Stanhope. Adam Carolla is the old guard of the Man Show, whereas Doug Stanhope is the new guard and could potentially make things fun and interesting. Kevin Smith and Doug Benson. Kevin Smith is a great guy, and Doug Benson, well, you know him. They would have plenty of good conversations about movies, and I think it would be amazing. So, that is, what we're talking about as far as the fantasy rosters, and we'll see what comes of that. I think that's going to be the way that's the way of the future is. We got to get like artificial intelligence to create, and not this like present day crappy artificial intelligence, but and it's not even that bad. Like it's not real, but it's way better than bad. So we'll see where it goes. I've been watching a lot of AI commercials. Been watching commercials about crap, about whatever. Commercials that you like burger commercials about Oreos, and it's just, I think it's just kind of, it's good. It's a good skill to have, to be able to not a good skill, it's interesting. These AI commercials are interesting, but I'm also really freaked out by them, and I don't get it at all, and I don't understand it. Something I was thinking about, though, is, I've always been, and I think stand-up comedians in general, not that I'm trying to get out of that whole identifying as a comedian thing, because it just sets you up for failure. People are like, oh, you think you're so funny, tell me a joke. And it's like, I don't want to. I just want to exist, Like I don't know, there's just something about needing to be funny that is just, I'm almost, in a snobby way, I feel like I'm above being funny. Not that I'm even good at it, or was good at it, but just like that it's not my thing. I just want to be a person, and if that leads to interesting conversations, that's good. If it doesn't, that's fine, because I'm a whole person. And that's the boring thing of the week. But what I mean by that is, you watch shows like Joe Rogan, And you see him, and he's really not necessarily funny, but that doesn't stop him from being entertaining. He's still able to be good. He's still able to draw people in. Now, I don't think he's like always got the best take on things, but I don't think people always have the best take on things. Like, there's people I love, mom, dad, sister, aunts, uncles. I love them and I think they're great, but I don't agree with everything they say. They might say some crazy shit, some crazy bullshit about, like, the weather or the news. And if I have to love or hate them based on their take about politics or religion, I'm gonna be set up for failure, because people, unless your job is to be in that, unless you're a professional thinker and someone who does that for a living, unless that's what you're doing, it's not really something that you can count on as like that they're going to have a good take. You never know what people are going to think. So you can either dispose of that person, or you can just not like their ideas, but know that, in general, there is a goodness to them that is outside of their ideas. And that's, you could say that's like bullshit. And it depends. And I would never tell someone else, like, oh, you must love your parents who tell you you're a big piece of shit. No, you don't have to. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to love anyone. It's not mandatory at all. And there might be cases where, like, you truly are not around people who are good or worthwhile or beneficial to your life, that these people are bad for you. That can be the case. I'm just saying, work on it and see what happens. And have fun with it. Anyway, I think that, have fun with it. That's such a fucking weird, meaningless thing to say. But these, the new era of Bustérs is something that is sometimes just gets me thinking about what I can do, what I can cover, what I should cover, what I don't want to cover. And we just go from there. There's a certain tendency that people have that you just absolutely must accept, which is people want to join the popular thing. A certain percentage of people are going to hate on the popular thing, but also, a certain amount of people are going to enjoy the popular thing. And, like resetting my channel and everything, it's been an interesting kind of dive into that. It has shown me that people want to watch something that is popular, They want to watch something that is known, that it kind of has a stamp of approval, that you could say, this is good. And rather than get, because I've seen streamers get pissed and be like, fuck you, this is good, I'm good, let me, I think people are fairly simple, and I think that in general, most fake on-air outrage turns into real outrage. I don't have the numbers to support that because I didn't do a scientific study. I'm just saying that based on my observation of folks, that their performance on air is linked very strongly to whether or not they are good at performing, or rather their popularity. So that's not even what I was talking about, was I? What I was trying to say is that people who suck at streaming often suck for a long time and continue to suck because they can't accept that people aren't necessarily going to like you, Now I watched a Red Bar video, IAIB, and it was interesting because it was, you can look at a person and think, this guy's stupid, he's a moron, I don't like him. And that's fine. But that's not necessarily, that doesn't necessarily prove anything. It doesn't show much. It doesn't make you feel like anything is normal. So, I want to just show you this, okay? Let me see if I can we get...
Hey everybody, welcome to another IAIB Spotlight. This week, we are putting the spotlight on someone actually that I really admire in the business, and when I first started getting into podcasting, one of the first podcasts that I found was Red Bar Radio. We have Mike David on from Red Bar Radio to talk about what he's been up to and where internet broadcasting is going. How you doing, Mike?
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
This is my ghetto setup
this morning.
I see the Candyman hat on already.
Very
inside baseball. Very inside baseball with that term, right?
Yeah, Candyman, of course, is the black African-American villain from the Candyman movies. He is the big guy with a hook. You say his name 5 times in the mirror, and he comes and kills you with his army of bees.
The bees are very dangerous.
The bees are dangerous. His hook is dangerous. He's dangerous without the powers,
People have been saying that the bees are disappearing. They just have to look into his mouth.
Yeah, the bees are, they're in his mouth. That's where all the bees are going. They're swarming to him.
Yeah, we have to save the bees, and apparently he's just eating them. But we'll get back to the Candyman stuff, and we'll get back to bees. Our show's sponsored by bees.com.
Lovebees.com.
Yeah. So, Mike, I want to go through your entire broadcasting career, because it's very interesting. People do say that I am the
whole career,
villain version of you, with my swarthy look.
When I'm not wearing my hat, we kind of have some similar features here with the dark features and stuff.
We're very swarthy, Mike.
And a lot of people say you're the alternate evil-looking version of me.
And I'll accept that. I'm fine with that, actually.
I don't know how to...
that is a
version, like you said.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put them both on the screen at the same time.
Before, I guess, the term podcasting started, right? Before everybody was doing iTunes and everybody was doing, a podcast.
Like shit.
You kind of were one of the first people to get into this as far as the comedy front goes.
Yeah, back in around 2002, 2003, we started dabbling in this, what we were just calling internet radio, which I guess you could still call it now, right?
Yeah, internet broadcast.
So, I mean, look. We've got the live stream going. We've got people figuring it out. All we need now is to be top tier, and then we'll make it to the next level, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, I feel like, Mike David, when I see him in this form,
I mean, I'm big on the whole
as the,
because it's not radio anymore.
As the guy he used to be, it just makes me think like, oh, he's a person, he's a human. I don't have to. In other words, when someone becomes so solid in their performance, it makes me feel like they are when somebody is such a slick presenter and able to just, present and be dynamic and blah, 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 and just all over perform. It feels like they're not a real human. And when that happens, I lose some sense of like humanity. I feel like you're not a real guy, and for whatever reason that bugs me. So it's nice to see him as just a person. Let's just see some more of this.
Never has been.
No.
Okay. So we started goofing around with microphones. We were like audio video guys.
Because I think the perception is that if you are yourself, then you're not enough. That you actually have to be, high level amazing and really, extra in order to just be good enough. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think you have to be extra necessarily. You do if you're a politician and you're trying to be voted for. You might have to be extra and say all the right things and do all the right things and be a showman and all that kind of shit. But if you're trying to make people happy, you're trying to do things, then I don't think that you necessarily need to do that. Now, I see people use their hands when they're presenting. Hey everybody, guess what? This is what I'm doing. Now, I would have to find, a rhyme or reason for that. I'd have to find the genuine comfort, because people talk a lot of shit. People are silly. People say dumb shit all the time. And you don't want to be like that. You don't want to deal with that. And for that reason, I'm out. No, I'm just saying, like, you gotta let people know what you're all about. You gotta let people in to your vibe and let people know what you're doing. Wait a second, Bill. I don't know. Okay.
And we were just goofing around with microphones, doing some recordings. And my buddy and I had our headphones
it's
on.
like, I think what you gotta, here's what I like about what Red Bar was saying in this video. One of the things he was saying was that you gotta just let it be. Like, you gotta let yourself come out. You gotta let your internal being show up. But more importantly than that, I think what he was saying was like, find out if you even enjoy it. Find out if it's the thing for you or if it's just a bunch of bullshit. Like, find out if it's worthwhile or if it's not worthwhile. You know, because there's a possibility that that it's not legit, you know, that you think that you want to be a broadcaster and you don't actually want to be it. And I mean, to some degree, you just kind of know, right? You just kind of know when you want to do something. But I think that, you know, one of the things that I'm working on, that I want to do when I fully, you know, get down to it, is I want to make stuff, you know. I want to make things that people like, and I want to have people enjoy them however I can do that. And my resonance and my enjoyment of things is far more present in how other people receive them rather than how I receive them. You know, it's like, and I don't know if this is just how, I don't know if this is like a male thing or not, but I find that, and maybe this is like not even a good human thing, but I find that emotions are best not experienced. That's kind of a fucked up way to look at things, right? You don't want to be thinking that way. So we'll see about it, but just want to, you know, get to the next level of live streaming. And when I say next level, I mean like, find out what's rich and meaningful about it. Find out what's happening, you know? Yeah, we can sit around and feel shitty about whatever, but I would rather feel good about whatever, you know? I would rather enjoy what I'm doing. Like, one of the things that Red Bar said was that if you find a way to enjoy that thing that you're doing and make it not the thing that you are looking at the clock all the time to like get through, then that's how you know that you've really succeeded at it, because you're so in love with the art that you actually don't even care about the day being over. So that's meaningful to me, and I think that that's gonna be the way that it goes, you know? I mean, like, that's just gonna kind of be what I do. And, you know, I think maybe eventually making my own website and doing my own videos on my own page and really like scaling up and doing it proper the way that Red Bar does it might truly be the style that not only the style that works, but the mandatory way that it must be done, because you know there's always this fight between fake and real, and it's like, yes, you get to the real you, but what if the real you is depressed as fuck, you know? The so-called, so that's why I call it the so-called real you. Because real, okay, we're real. We can get real depressed, real sad. Is that where we want to be? You know? I don't know. I think that breaking through, succeeding, winning, that's what really, that's what will put you on the right side of things. And, you know, I got to talk to Joe Booney some more. Joe Booney is a good motivational guy, good at, you know, helping to uplift. You know, I truly believe that it's important for me to, you know, be a positive force in myself of positivity and of you know, uplifting. But I think that you know, there's more to it than that. So we got to look into it and we got to see what happens. But until we get to the next level, you know, we'll see what happens. But I want to thank you for watching, and we'll talk soon.